Hello friends, family and other creatures of the sea, and welcome to a high-level game of StarCraft 2 on Decisive. Today we have Goblin in the top right, playing for Team Platinum Heroes, and in the bottom left as a red Zerg player, playing for Team G. It is Ratata, our favorite Pokemon player in the world, player formerly known as Vanya, of course. And Vanya is a bit of an aggressive one, or has always been a bit of an aggressive one. Goblin is someone that has a healthy mix of uber aggression or super camp. There doesn't really seem to be a middle of the road for him, and as we are playing on Decisive, I'm a little bit afraid of some potential camping issues here, because Goblin is just a huge fan of sitting back, relaxing a little bit and not doing all that much. Also possible, of course, to see some type of two-base play. We have seen him blink all in a lot in the past, and it is completely viable that he'll go for something along those lines. Second pylon should start any second now. There we go. And we'll have to wait and see what his initial setup is going to be. This Ratata is already scouting across the map with his first Overlord and is just building 4 links. Oh, almost lost a drone here to harass. I didn't even see that. Oh! Probe instead is just going to end up turning into dust here near the Zerg base. As the initial adept is not even going to get chrono boosted here. So Goblin just starting with a very kind of economical approach to this matchup, saying, hey, if I don't chrono boost this adept, I can chrono boost my probes a little more, I get a little bit more cash, which is what I want, especially after losing the probe on your side of the map. We see Ratata moving his links across the map, probably waiting for a potential move out. If Goblin decides to move out with this adept, then these 4 links will just run in towards the natural base, 2 into the natural, 2 into the main base, and start taking out workers while getting scouting information at the same time, which is something that everyone wants in their life, right? Scouting information, hugely beneficial most of the time. Ratata already putting down his first creep tumor as well, but this is all fairly standard, so let's not talk all that much about it. Mainly curious to see what the first unit is going to be here. Okay. It's going to be an Oracle, which has honestly been the golden standard in PvZ for a couple of months now. But at the same time, we are watching a Goblin game, and Goblin is a player that loves opening up with Phoenixes. He just likes building them. Double Stargate Phoenix opening with 1 Phoenix into Oracles, into more Phoenixes is completely viable for him the majority of the time. The second gateway goes down as well, and we're looking at a relatively fast third base most likely. Now, this is the first small deviation from the norm, is that 10 links get constructed here, and these links, they're not here for fun. They're not here to have coffee with the adept and a probe. No, they want to snipe the probe before it can really build the nexus. I don't think they can snipe it before it can build the nexus, because the nexus has already been built, but perhaps they can go for a surround on this adept. Adept slightly out of position, and that pylon also was poorly positioned. The adept manages to just barely squeeze himself into that mineral patch, in between them 2 mineral patches. This nexus is barely going to stay alive. Second Oracle pops out as well. There's no more links being produced, but despite this not being a very successful cancel, because the nexus is still alive, that's pretty much the definition of an unsuccessful attempt there. Like trying to shoot someone, but instead you stab yourself in your own back. It's not super useful, but probably a bonus of stabbing yourself in the back while there's a high-value target nearby is that the security near that high-value target is going to be upgraded a little bit, so resources are being spent there. And these Oracles stayed home a little bit longer than ideally maybe they would have wanted, which meant that no harass could really take place. Now we do see these Oracles actually moving in for some harassment, but only taking out a single drone. Spores had been delayed for a little while. There's not even a spore in the main base yet, so yes, a couple of links did go down. Yes, a drone just died. I still really like the position that Ratata is in. It seems a completely playable and fine spot. He is getting into that fast +1 for the melee upgrades, as we see. Ooh, 4 extra gateways on the way for Goblin. So, that's kind of odd. It actually is kind of odd. Feels like he wants to really commit to a Blink Stalker attack, but there's no robotics facility here. We are also seeing 2 sentries, and that kind of reinforces that in my head, that Goblin wants to move out for some type of Blink Stalker attack soon. Keeping 1 Oracle at home as well, probably still afraid of something being rallied across the map, and rather than harassing with all 3 Oracles at the same time, he says, no, 2 is enough, I can one-shot drones. Fighting against Queens is going to be a little bit harder, and Queens are doing a very good job taking some big hits on that Oracle, putting in some damage. We have a Spire right now starting in the main base. And that is Well, not very close to being done. I'm not quite sure why I looked at that for so long. Like, 7 seconds, 8 seconds. Mighty interesting. 6-minute fort base. No gases yet on this third. So we're playing a relatively low gas, high eco style. Now this is often referred to as the hero gateway man build. Although I'm not entirely sure if we can call everything that is low gas and has blink the hero gateway man build. Because it does feel like, yeah, Goblin is not getting wasn't getting a fast second force and now is already getting up to 6 gases. So he's not really playing that heavy aggression style. He just initially stays on 4 gases to get that fort base faster, get a lot of infrastructure out as well, and then eventually start teching into the Templar archives, into the second fort, and all of that good jazz. So it's really a different setup. I don't think the two are very comparable. People often just throw these terms around and pretend like they know what they mean, but I really think that the hero gateway man stuff isn't just 3 oracles into blink. I think there is certain moves need to be made. There needs to be a lot of charge lot harass very early on in the game. The stalkers need to be aggressive. You're basically trying to keep the Zerg opponent from droning up too far, and that hasn't really happened yet. I mean, this is the first move out that Goblin is even making in this already 7-minute and 16-second long game. And now 11 mutas are out on the way. There's a 5th base coming in, and we're working off of 8 gases, despite only being at 76 workers. This feels a whole lot like it's going to be a mass muta game. And now I'm kind of curious. You would say that Stalkers are very good against this, but Stalkers actually suck against Mutalisk. They're nice as kind of like an initial cushion that can take the hit. Kind of like a backup plan if you don't have Phoenixes, but you eventually are going to need the Phoenixes. If the muta count gets too large, Stalkers just can't be in 2 places at the same time, like, you know, the flying units can be, basically. They can fly over cliffs, and then the Stalkers are just not going to be great. Oracles are trying to take out some Mutalisk. That obviously doesn't work, because Oracles don't attack air. 7 workers have been taken out, and more mutas are in production already. We're 8 minutes into the game. 17 mutas are out, 4 more on the way, bringing the total up to 21. I am not liking the position here for Goblin all that much. He is producing a lot of Phoenixes. He's trying to chrono boost them out. He still has a decent, well, he has a good worker count at 79. He's getting double upgrades as well. Shield upgrades are going to be helpful for the Phoenixes, but ideally you want the air weapons. Yeah, there we go. No second Stargate quite yet, and I don't think these are enough Stalkers, are they? This is what, 9, 10, 12 Stalkers perhaps with the added in. Warpin shield weapons is actually going to get sniped here as more Mutalisk are flying in. I wouldn't mind if it goes for the second forge as well. Beautiful stuff here. This is why you never build your key structures on the edge, because it makes it so easy for these mutas to actually take him out. Now, a couple of Mutalisk are going to start bleeding out, but at the same time, these Phoenixes are in a lot of trouble. Stalkers have been taken out, and the muta production is absolutely on fire with 10 gases mining, 1600 gas per minute. That means 16 mutas per minute, basically, because all of your minerals get spent in links if you have any left over. Baneling's speed is being researched as well. +2 has already finished up. I wouldn't mind just seeing like a morphin of... Ooh, hold that thought as we see this Archon being sniped. No snipe on that Archon. The super battery a little bit too scary, but perhaps 2 Phoenixes can get sniped. Yes, indeed the case. I'd love to see some Banelings being morphed in here. Very unfortunate that Centrifugal Hooks isn't done yet. But that might not even be the end of the world. I mean, with +2, all you really need to do is look at a probe and it already falls over and dies. Man, freaking +2 Banelings are so powerful. Just like these mutas are powerful, by the way. Look at that. Just ripping through the Stalkers over here. And this is what I was talking about. Like, Stalkers are nice, but you can't have your entire Stalker army in one place, because you need to defend multiple locations at the same time, because you don't have full vision. That often is very difficult. Now, it does feel like Ratata is struggling to continuously deal damage, and I really feel like that the delayed Centrifugal Hooks hasn't really helped with that. And are trying to fly in towards the main base. There's a lot of Stalkers there, though. And this is +1 mutas against just +1 units as well. There's also a bunch of Phoenixes with, well, close to being finished with that +1. There's the Phoenix range as well, the Anti-Impulse Crystal. So I feel like the window is closing. Vanya is already anticipating that window closing. He's trying to squeeze through the window, get the last bit of fresh air, until this is going to go into a suffocating late game, most likely, as it does feel like that's kind of where we're heading. I don't see these mutas really fighting too efficiently anymore, especially now that any impulse crystals are out. We're seeing some corruptors being added in. There's a lot of mining going on for Ratata already. He has good upgrades on melee. He's gonna get carapace upgrades. I would like to see just another Evo chamber here as well. I think it would be hugely beneficial. None of these banelings actually managed to get the connections. Yeah, this was a poor attack. Mutas weren't even really doing anything during it. I feel like at least they should have been somewhere, trying to distract your opponent, you know, removing some of their APM from that defensive situation. Attacking is always easier than defending. Whenever you see someone respond to threats, it's always a little bit delayed, obviously, because he has less information. While the aggressor, he can basically set it up exactly how he wants to. And I'm really disappointed in a way in Ratata that he didn't manage to use these Mutalisks for anything useful during that Lingbane Roach attack here on the third base. Now, we do have 2 carriers in production already. You have the double fortress producing upgrades once again as well. Mutalisk with level 2 will manage to take out these cannons. And the corruptors will help against the anti-impulse crystals. Phoenixes. You have 10 Phoenixes against 8 corruptors. And corruptors don't necessarily win, but they really just kind of tank a bit of damage, allowing the Mutas to escape. And if the Phoenixes don't get microed, well, maybe the Mutas and corruptors together can take out some Phoenixes. So we see this army once again rotating towards the third base. I thought they were going to go into the main. The third base it is. Corruptors actually peeing on this Nexus. I don't think that is the correct call. These Phoenixes with +1 are dealing a lot of damage, as there are no carapace upgrades whatsoever on these air units. We do have carapace level 2 on ground coming in right now. There are 12 gases mining. We have spines on the way. We have a spore coming down. It feels like Ratata, despite still focusing on this harass, is already mentally in a late game right now. Like, he's making the transition. He's getting the adrenal glands. He's getting the ultra cavern. Vipers. Oh, I love this actually. I wouldn't mind if he doesn't throw away all of these air units and just starts using Vipers in this army for Abduct or for Parasitic Bomb on the Phoenixes. I think both of these spells are going to be hugely beneficial in all of these trades. Ratata still also has 46 Banelings here, which could allow for perhaps a bust on this new 5th base. I mean, there's no Storm in this army whatsoever, so the actual ability to take out the Banelings very rapidly isn't here. There is some tanking power in the Archons. There is some delaying power in the force fields from the sentries, but just an interesting thought that these Banelings could really do something here. They could really force a remax very quickly into units that you don't really want to remax on. Here come the Banes. There is a stasis there. It's going to trigger. Links are starting to attack that base with the adrenal glands with the +2 attack. Banelings connecting. Well, with probably not much of anything. This was a terrible fight here for Ratata. Doesn't even take out the 5th base, as half of his units weren't really paying attention. These links are still doing a lot of damage. Corruptors are being taken out right now, though 4 ultras are on the way. Feels like Goblin wants to send it here. I'm not sure about that, as there are ultras on the way already. These Vipers also being produced, but perhaps taking out one base isn't the worst idea, and using these Phoenixes for some good in the world, taking out maybe a couple of drones. You could definitely take out like 10, 15, 20 drones or so here. I don't think that is necessarily a bad plan. More Banelings are being constructed as well, 12 to be exact. This is very unfortunate. A beautiful mass muta game out of Ratata, but now is on the ropes as this army is pushing in. I really do believe that Goblin should be careful though. There's no reason for him to continue pushing. He has so much value in these Phoenixes when it comes to harassment. And there is a possibility he's just going to get cleaned up here by these Ultras. 2 Ultras taking out every single Archon. Ultras will end up falling. 1 stays alive. More Ultras right now moving in. Where are the upgrades? It's 2-1 against 2-2 plus 3 melee attacks is about to finish up as well. With the Queens, with the Parasitic Bomb, I do believe that Ratata is going to be capable of pushing this back and maybe even continue pushing on. And this is why I didn't really want Goblin to be out on the map, because, well, these Ultras or some type of transition was going to be an inevitability. And now I'm not entirely sure if Goblin can actually defend this base. I think he should be fine with a super battery, but there's no real damage output. I mean, no Immortals, there's not that many Archons, there's no Storm to deal with the small units. And it feels like this 5th base is just going to end up falling. Great engagement here. Great little trade here in the end for Ratata, who has been struggling in getting some good trades overall in this game. But in this last engagement definitely made it happen. Taking out that 5th base as well, forcing Goblin to stay on these 4 bases, which are starting to mine out, and perhaps even forcing Goblin's hand in some way. Because Goblin right now needs to make the decision, and that decision is either going to be maxing out on a massive army and going for a one-time push, or trying to continuously retake that 5th base and go for a proper late game. And Immortals are being built, Archons, no Storm is being researched, which surprises me and confuses me at the same time, and shocks me as well. A lot of emotions coming out of me when I see no Storm here. Really just a lot of emotions at the same time. All of them begging for kind of emotion priority, but just feel them, you know, exactly at the same moment. I don't think we can attack into this Ratata. I actually don't think that's possible whatsoever. I do like the Greater Spire here, because it helps massively against Archons, where Ultras are great at kind of fighting in the middle of the map or taking off lone like bases. They're not so great fighting against a lot of Archons when there's Immortal backup as well. This fight, they did kind of manage to rip through some of the Archons, but also 7 Ultras went down. So it probably wasn't the most cost-efficient fight in the world. I feel like both players take a win and then believe that they kind of have the right or the permission to win the game. And then they throw their lead away and give it to the other player again. And that last fight was a little bit debatable out of Ratata. I feel like if you keep 3 to 2 Ultralisk alive with Ling Bane, you're always going to be capable of cancelling basically these non-well defended bases. The ones that fall out of the easy to defend zone, which the first 4 bases for Protoss are really easy to defend, but the 5th is already a lot harder, and especially if there's spores in the middle and perhaps some Broodlords trying to push forward, such an army can really just break through cannon lines with relative ease. Something that is important as well in the late game often. Yeah, there are still there's still 6 Ultras. I really like the Greater Spire, honestly. I think that was a good call, but you do need to use it. And I think this investment into Ultras doesn't make a whole lot of sense, given that there's 4 Immortals already. And on top of that, I don't think that Goblin is going to take another like mid-map fight like he did earlier over here. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I don't like this. I really don't like how Ratata is doing that. So to try and take out this base, but this is not trying to take out a base. This is trying to fight the army at the same time as well. Some Immortals are being pulled in, but the carriers are ripping through this army, despite the thick height of the fat Ultralisk. It feels like Goblin did manage to make quite a big dent into that. Corruptors turn around, snipe a couple more Phoenixes. There's still 9 carriers alive. You know, have 44 Lynx, 3 Vipers, and 8 Corruptors on the way. Right now, if you would have like 5 Ultras and 20 Banes, you could say, hey, why don't we just go into the 3rd base, try to deal some damage there. It's a great counter-attack mechanism a lot of the time, these Ultralisks, but in a straight-up engagement, they just don't quite provide the benefit that Broodlords have against the Archons, and against High Templar as well often. I'm also extremely surprised to see a complete lack of spellcasters on both sides. I mean, we have seen some Vipers, but that is really about it coming out of Ratata. Well, Goblin hasn't invested massively into Templar either with Storm. We do see some Templar right now being warped in, but no Storm yet. Here comes the Neural Parasite. Do we have Burrow? No, it's on the way. And our first Infestors as well being added into the mix. 87 workers though means that the army is very small, and on top of that there's also still 5 Ultras, which is just too many. It's too many Ultras. Ideally I'd see a Ratata split up this Ultra army into 2 groups, one army going to the right side and the other army taking out these new bases that are being established right now. Storm is being researched as well, as Goblin finally realized that Storm might be pretty much the best spell that Protoss has in the entire game, so why not try to use it? Here comes a couple of Abducts, one Abduct going down immediately, as this carrier is going to get taken out. Very nice play here out of Ratata. 2 more get pulled in. Not the greatest control on the core, actually. It's the opposite of the greatest control. It's pretty poor control there with the Corruptors. He's going to lose a couple of them. And there are some of these Infestors available. They're going to get spotted here immediately, though. More Corruptors are in production. Where are the Ultras? Once again, I feel like this is a good opportunity to perhaps go for a base trade. The moment you see that move out, is that we see like a sprinkle of units coming in here. Fungals being cast as well. Where are the Corruptors? Just kind of idling while everything is dying. What a an odd way to engage here. 50 more Lings are on the way, but Lings aren't really the answer to this army. I don't think so. There's still too many Archons alive. Here come the Immortals. Here come the Archons. Ultras pushing in. Parasitic Bomb gets used. And I think that Goblin is just absolutely destroying this fight. Holy cow. GG gets called. Goblin ends up winning after an aggressive mass Mutalisk style. Ratata did not quite have the tools to beat Goblin in the late game. Too late with the spellcasters. Too much of a focus on Ultralisk. I mean, if you go into 15 Ultras, that's always a mistake, I think. Like, low Ultra counts are great against Protoss to really break cannon lines, but for straight up engagement, the moment Immortals are out, Broodlords definitely are the superior unit, and I think Ratata will realize that after this game as well. That is going to be it for me today. Thanks all so much for watching. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hopefully I'll see all of you next time for a new video. Thank you, and bye-bye.